I think it's happened to all of us at some point in our lives. There are movies that you see once as a young kid and you think, meh. But then you see a thumbnail on a YouTube video that advertises that it's going to explain why that movie is actually great. And then you think, it has been an awfully long time, and I did have some pretty skewed opinions on movies as a child.
No, 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 no.
Maybe I misjudged the movie in question. Then you think, I want to watch that YouTube review, but I better watch the movie first. So you watch the movie again. Then you think,
wait a minute.
don't I review movies? Don't I have a YouTube channel that I created so I could talk about movies? And shouldn't I make my own review before I watch that other review so the details of my review aren't tainted by the details of that review?
What the fuck are you talking about?
You know, now that I've said it out loud, it doesn't actually sound like something that's that common a thing, but you know what? Fuck it. Let's talk about 1986's Highlander. There can be only one. No, just ignore those. There can be only one. I saw Highlander once a long time ago, and I haven't given it a lot of thought since. I hear references to it in other media.
Wow. I feel like I'm in Highlander.
What's the Highlander?
It's a movie.
Any good?
Very good. It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for best movie ever made.
And I remember the premise well enough, but it isn't one that's stuck with me. I didn't remember it being bad per se, but I haven't felt like watching it since, until now, at least 20 years later.
Why, God, why?
Watching it again after all this time, I can't say that I like it a lot, but I do think there's a lot to discuss, mostly because it's a movie that's absolutely earned its cult status. It has an intriguing general premise and story, but the plot itself doesn't take full advantage of its opportunities, and the script leaves a lot to be desired. Every now and then, there are certain individuals who just become immortal for some reason. They don't age and they can't die unless they get their heads cut off. And that wouldn't be too bad, but they're all trying to kill each other because the last one left alive will win the prize. This is Connor MacLeod, born in the 1500s in the Highlands of Scotland, hence Highlander, who is living in present-day 1985 in New York City. After killing another immortal, he becomes the lead suspect in the man's murder investigation, which also includes a forensic scientist with an interest in ancient swords, which is a happy coincidence because these guys fucking love their swords. And she begins looking into MacLeod's past to figure out what he's all about, and she's kind of pretty, so you know where that's going.
And boink! Bad baby, bad baby.
The story jumps back and forth between present day and MacLeod's past, and we see him discovering his immortality, being shunned by his clan because of it, falling in love, receiving some training and heavy exposition from a fellow immortal, and running into the Kurgan, the super evil immortal who's tracked him down in the present and is just acting like a big old bag of dicks all the time. He's basically the villain on a Saturday morning cartoon show, except he spends most of the movie looking like an extra from the movie Cruising. I mean, he sounds like he should be on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I took his head and raped his woman before his blood was even cold.
But he looks like a regular at the Blue Oyster.
Hey, big boy, why don't you come see me sometime? Hey, big boy.
There it is, that's the setup and the basic plot. Now, let's take a closer look at the good stuff and the bad stuff, and there will be spoilers ahead.
From the dawn of time we came.
Right up front, when you open your movie, use opening text or opening narration. Don't use both. Neither is often preferable, but if you just have to, pick one. In this case, you had Sean fucking Connery on hand to perform the narration, so it's obvious which one they should have chosen. But then we hear another voice.
We're the princes of the universe.
Oh yeah, that's Freddie fucking Mercury. Queen did the soundtracks for two movies, both in the 80s. One was Flash Gordon and the other was indeed Highlander. Now, I like Queen well enough, but famous performing musicians doing the soundtracks for movies can seem very out of place, especially in the 1980s. I'm looking at you, Prince. Queen works okay here. Half the time it's out of place, doesn't really fit the tone, but I actually think it was worth it for Who Wants to Live Forever, which is a pretty damn good song. Princess of the Universe plays over the opening credits, and then we open on a cheesy professional wrestling match complete with blonde wigs and a Confederate flag cape.
What?
Okay. That's a little weird. But then we get these two images juxtaposed together. Who thought this edit was a good idea? The image of a sweaty, hairy, blonde-wigged man suggestively stripping off, and then a shot of a 7 or 8-year-old girl doing her best Gene Simmons impersonation. This editor is a very dirty boy.
You filthy animal.
I mean, look at this. She cannot control herself. We're not even 3 minutes in. I'm feeling disturbed and dirty, and I think I need a shower. But then we meet our hero, who has apparently come to this very silly sporting event to, what else? Brood. Seriously, he had to drive down here, buy the tickets, find his seat, and wait for the show to start so he could just sit here and brood. Look at this guy. He's not even looking at the match. What the hell is he doing here? There's a reason that Batman sits in his cave and on rooftops when he's brooding, because it's not something you should actually put any effort into doing. And now look, he doesn't even have his eyes open. What an insult to these fine sportsmen. But he suddenly seems drawn to the car park where he encounters this guy. They know each other, apparently, and then we hear the first real line of dialogue in the whole movie, and it's terrible.
Fazil. Wait. Stop. Don't. Stop. Don't. Come back.
These two guys have a not very exciting sword fight with lots of needless flipping around and chasing and hiding behind cars, and then our hero disarms the guy and just fucking cuts his head off.
Jesus.
Not very heroic, really, but if you turn it into a GIF, it looks like Christopher Lambert is cutting off Donald Trump's head.
Grab him by the pussy.
You are fake news. Sir, go ahead. Can you stay
If only all presidential races could be worked out this way. But then we start to see that cheesy, but also pretty awesome Ghostbusters-esque 1980s CGI, because whenever one of these immortals kills another, there's this whole thing that happens, shit starts flying around and exploding, and it honestly just looks like the reward for winning one of these fights is just a big old earth-shattering orgasm. Then we flash back to Scotland in the 1500s, where Clan MacLeod is fighting another clan, and you know what? I'm not going to go through this scene by scene. I'm just going to talk about the ones I feel like talking about. And I'll try to throw in some context, and every now and then, I'll throw in an out-of-context moment from the movie, just for fun. Like this one.
Hi, I'm Candy.
Of course you are.
Let's talk about our hero, Connor MacLeod, played by Christopher Lambert. I've only seen Lambert in 2 other movies, Mortal Kombat, which is awesome, and Ghost Rider 2, which is not. I actually like him a lot in Mortal Kombat because he's given a chance to have a bit of fun in what would otherwise be a mostly standard and boring role. But here, I honestly get serious Tommy Wiseau vibes from this guy.
Shut the fuck up!
Some of the line readings are just atrociously bad.
Have you been following me?
I'd like to walk you home, Brenda.
And that's just in the scenes where he's using his real accent, which is some mixture of French and Swiss, from a guy who's only barely learned to speak English. But then we flash back, and he's playing Scottish, and that goes about as well as you might expect.
What's the matter, Dougal?
I don't like boats. I don't like water.
Would you rather I was dead?
I'm a man, not a fish.
We've been kinsmen 20 years.
Be still, for God's sake. You'll tip us over. I cannot swim, you Spanish peacock.
Tell me, how did it happen, for God's sake?
This is Dr. McNeely from the Fake Accent University. We'd like you to come on board with us full time.
he gets a few moments throughout to show a bit of genuinely humorous delivery, and when he does, it's like a breath of fresh air because it's a break from this intense, overly serious performance, which is such a drag. I get it. I understand why he's so grave. He's lived a long time. The people he falls in love with will die long before him. He can't have children, and he's always waiting for an attack from one of these other immortals, and I think that a different actor probably could have pulled this off. But Lambert, he just walks around with that stern air that comes across like a guy who's trying to stare someone down and being intimidating, but he doesn't have the self-assuredness to back it up, and he can't really see all that well either. He just doesn't make stoic interesting. He is not Ryan Gosling. He also looks fucking terrible. I'm sure Christopher Lambert is a handsome enough guy, but he wears this outfit almost the entire way through the present day portions. I mean, look at those ugly white sneakers with the ugly blue jeans, the ugly brown leather jacket, and all topped off with an awful trench coat. I understand the trench coat is so he can keep his sword on him at all times without freaking out people on the street, but couldn't it have been a nicer coat? He has a really nice apartment in New York City and he works as an antiques dealer, so why does he have to look like a homeless guy? And there's something off about his hair too. I mean, I don't want to be nitpicky, but like, look at his hair. It should either be longer or shorter than it is. It's all off. All this combined with the European accent makes him seem like he's one of Hans Gruber's goons from Die Hard. He should be wearing something, well, better looking to start off with, but something more distinctive.
Forgive me, my son.
After MacLeod should have died from getting stabbed during a battle, he gets shunned from his village because everyone thinks he's a witch or something, and then he shacks up with some chick named Heather. They're just hanging out, getting busy up in the Highlands, and then...
Greetings.
What an entrance. It's a mathematical certainty in the laws of the known universe that adding one Sean Connery to your movie elevates its quality by at least one letter grade. He plays another immortal called Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez, which is the most Spanish sounding name I have ever heard.
I'm not Spanish, I'm Egyptian.
Oh wait, no, never mind. He's Egyptian.
Please don't correct me. It sickens me.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Casting Sean Connery to play a Spaniard or an Egyptian makes about as much sense as casting him to play a Russian submarine captain, by which I mean complete sense. But once again, he doesn't even attempt to put on an accent, so it just works. And he is by far the best thing in the movie. He's got charisma, he's having fun, and the scenes between him and Lambert are some of the best in the movie. It also helps a lot that these scenes are really one long training montage / exposition dump, so we get to learn what's going on and take in the splendor of the Scottish countryside. I mean, look at this shot. The choreography is terrible, but you can tell it's because there are really two guys on the side of this mountain, and they're being careful so they don't fall off. It feels fucking dangerous. Connery also tells MacLeod that he should probably walk away from Heather because otherwise he'll have to watch her grow old and die while he stays the same age, and that would be pretty shit for him. This is one of the aspects that causes the story to fall flat for me, which I will explain in a minute.
Connor.
Heather, please. Heather, please.
So, Connery and Heather, they're just hanging out, and in pops...
Kurgan.
The Kurgan. The same dickhead who tried to kill MacLeod, and all this guy wants is to kill the other immortals and win the prize. He's played by Clancy Brown, who plays an asshole in pretty much everything. Connery and him fight, they go upstairs and downstairs and upstairs again. Heather stands around screaming and being annoying. Lightning is causing the whole place to collapse around them. Connery gets killed, but not before he can spit in the Kurgan's face, which is fucking awesome, and all I can think is, where the fuck is MacLeod? It's so weird that he's just absent with no explanation. He lives in the Highlands of Scotland. Where the fuck is he in the middle of the night? And would you leave your girlfriend alone with booze and Sean Connery? Yeah, that's what I thought. No, right?
Oh, would you like some more wine?
You're quite a girl, Pussy.
After that, Heather grows old, but it's okay because she looks fucking fantastic for an old lady. Wait a minute, what's she dying of? Too much fresh mountain air?
I don't know what sort of cream they've put on you down at the morgue, but I want some.
But this brings me neatly along to one of the biggest flaws of the plot. You see, this whole time we've actually been cutting back and forth between this and the present day, and almost all of the present day stuff is just boring. The cops investigating the murder, boring. Science lady investigating MacLeod, boring. The terribly developing romance between MacLeod and Science Lady, terrible and
Boring.
Her investigation is boring because the audience already knows what the answers are, and the two don't spend enough time together to make the romance believable. We get to the point where there's 20 minutes left in the runtime, and she's still trying to figure out what we've known for an hour and a half. But it could have worked. Just get rid of the other cops and have Science Lady be a cop instead, and she's suspicious of McLeod. That way they can spend more time together, and her interest in him is a little bit more substantial than, I found pieces of an ancient sword, and also I wrote a book about ancient swords, and I think you have an ancient sword. Please, oh please, won't you ever tell me about your ancient sword? Oh wait a minute, you're immortal? I guess I love you now, let's fuck. Hey, wait a minute.
Script! What? The Electric City!
The whole scene where he tells her he's immortal is so ridiculous. He tells her, stabs himself, doesn't die, and then they fuck. And he gives this little hero revealed speech.
I am Conor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I was born in 1518 in the village of Glenfinnan on the shores of Loch Shiel.
Father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Then in the very next scene, they're holding hands and he's all, it won't work. I can't get involved. Not again. First of all, Jesus, guy, take your foot off the gas pedal for a second. You are moving way too fast. And also, here we see what this part of the movie should have been about. It should have been a love story. The past is all about training and coming to terms with being an immortal, including experiencing the loss of the one you love. And the present is about meeting someone who makes you hope for love again, but it's being threatened by the enemy from the past. It's a solid idea that has not been fully realized here. There's too much other crap going on that's distracting from this element. A movie that did this perfectly? The Terminator. Sarah and Reese's relationship might have been rushed and brief, but the intensity of the circumstances added to the passion of the attraction, and it had that extra touch of destiny given the outcome of their union. How could Highlander have achieved similar results? Well, like I said, give them more time together by making her the cop investigating him. Have them constantly under threat from the Kurgan to heighten the emotion, but also, and just maybe, cast the same actors to play Heather and the Science Lady, so there's some destiny / reincarnation / soulmates magic happening. I think it could have worked better. Certainly would have made me care more.
Mother God.
Mom!
I don't like the Kurgan as an antagonist. He gets a good introduction, he's big, he's intimidating, but it's that one and only time that Clancy Brown is playing it subtle. The rest of the time, he's grunting and laughing, trying way too hard to be scary and evil. This is Clancy Brown. He already has the voice. He's Lex Luthor, for Christ's sake.
Keep in mind, this is your last chance.
He doesn't have to try so hard to be menacing. Most of the time, it just comes across goofy. Okay, so let's take a minute to go into some of this Highlander lore. For some reason, these guys can't fight on holy ground. That's a little weird, seeing as nothing else about the situation seems rooted in religious mythology. The Gathering.
The Gathering.
The gathering. The gathering.
The gathering.
Is the time when all the remaining immortals will be drawn together for a final confrontation, which in this case happens to be New York City, 1985. The prize.
The prize.
The prize.
The prize.
The prize.
Is what the last remaining immortal will get when the rest are dead. Alright, I get all that, but then there's something else called the Quickening.
The quickening! The quickening!
Which I am not clear on. As far as I can tell, the Quickening happens when two immortals meet. But then it's what happens when one immortal kills another. It's usually signified with the lightning and the explosions and the just epic orgasm body language. But then there's this scene. Let me paint you a word picture and also just show you the scene. Connery and Lambert are just strolling down the beach, and Connery gets him to stop and basically to try to feel the energy or life force of a nearby stag. We hear a heartbeat and Connery starts pawing the ground and breathing heavily like a fucking bull, and then they just start running and laughing. They're not running any faster, like they're going to catch the stag or something. They're just running, and then they jump into the water, and Connery says, "This is the Quickening too." I don't get it. Is it like the Force from Star Wars? And they picked a really weird word for it. Quickening is the first time a pregnant woman feels her baby move inside her, so maybe all these quickening experiences are some kind of metaphorical gestation period, and they're only really born once they win the prize, but that seems like overthinking and a bit of a stretch. It's a really fucking weird scene, but I can't help smiling at it because they just look so happy, and the music's pretty great, and all it's missing is some slow motion homoerotic male bonding in the surf. The The constant refrain of the characters, especially the Kurgan, is there can be only one.
There can be only one.
There can be only one. There can be only one.
There can be only one.
Can be only one.
It's the tagline of the movie. This means that they all have to kill each other. So why does Connery train Lambert? If the Kurgan didn't kill Connery, then Lambert probably would have had to, so why help him at all? And not just cut off his head right away?
That does not make sense.
And then there's this non-character who shows up 2/3 of the way into the runtime, and he's all friendly with McLeod, and there's not even a hint of awkwardness that they'll probably have to kill each other soon. In fact, he's been drawn to New York for that very purpose, but there's no conflict, no drama. Imagine watching the Hunger Games, except everybody was real friendly all the time, and it just never comes up that they're all going to kill each other. This guy is such a pointless character, just like the character he plays in The Phantom Menace. He shows up late, he dies soon after, but in between we're treated to two baffling scenes. One is a flashback to 1783. McLeod is falling down drunk during a duel with a guy whose wife he insulted. The guy keeps stabbing him, but he's immortal, he won't die. It's an amusing idea for a scene, but then there's this person, who seems like a manservant of some kind, who keeps trying to kiss the guy every time he thinks he's won the duel. McLeod apologizes.
I apologize for calling your wife a bloated warthog.
And walks away, and this manservant wants the guy to shoot McLeod in the back. Instead, the guy decides to turn around and shoot the manservant instead, and I am seriously confused. I just don't get what happened. Leave a comment if you can explain this scene to me. And after that, we see this guy. Who is he? No idea. But he's got a stack of machine guns, he's wearing an anti-commie t-shirt, and he's angry driving a 1979 Pontiac Trans Am to Queen's song Hammer to Fall. He takes a random turn down some dark alleys and comes across the Kurgan and this latecomer guy. He jumps out of the car, grabs his trusty assault rifle, and demands to know what the hell is going on? And I'm feeling something similar. Why are we following this guy? Why didn't they just show the start of the fight? Anyway, this guy gets his head cut off and the Kurgan sneezes from his special place. Then this guy gets stabbed through the stomach and hoisted into the air. And then in the next scene, he's just fine. Massive penetrating trauma. Nah, he'll be fine. Look, he's got some apples and oranges. That's gonna sort him right out. Turns out the guy's a Vietnam vet with PTSD who stockpiles weapons and oh, okay, I get it. They needed another scene where we see how immortal these guys are, and this was the best reason they could come up with for why a bystander to a sword fight would have a machine gun. This also marks the point where Clancy Brown decides to fully let loose with his performance, and it gets a bit awkward to watch. Before this, he's been mostly non-verbal, which made him more menacing, but now he's... I don't even know what to call this. He's scaring the shit out of old ladies, he wants to fuck some nuns, he's tonguing the priest, and shouting random shit, and then there's this.
I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Even though the people in the church think this is lame, and he's always laughing now for some reason. It's like going from the Terminator to the Joker. No, not this Joker, this Joker. The Kurgan kidnaps the science lady after chasing her through her oddly red-lit apartment. It's like she knew ahead of time that she would eventually be the lead player in a horror movie scenario and wanted to have the right lighting to set the mood. He takes her joyriding for, I'm not joking, almost 3 minutes of screen time, and then uses her as bait to lure McLeod into a final confrontation. And holy shit, he took off his ugly trench coat, you know, he actually looks kind of badass. Still got the ugly shoes though. They fight on top of this big sign, there's lots of big swings and the Kurgan grunting, and it's pretty endless and boring, and then they fall through a skylight and they land in the best scene in the movie. Being backlit by the blue tinted windows looks awesome. McLeod's all wet and dirty, so his awful haircut is slicked away, and the impact of his terrible white shoes is lessened. The heroic music kicks in and tricks us into thinking the whole movie has been epic when really it's only this one scene. We get one last shot of Lambert's strength as the more playful character that could have been.
What kept you?
And McLeod wins the fight, which means he is the only one, which means he wins the prize. We get a legitimately great shot of the glass shattering along with some more orgasm acting. McLeod gets attacked by some cartoon characters, which I think is kind of cool. And I wish they could have done more to hide the wires holding him up because it's awfully distracting. So after all this, what is the prize that he's won?
You're at one with all living things. Each man's thoughts and dreams are yours to know. You have power beyond imagination.
Well, that is a little vague.
It's like a whirlwind in my head. But if I concentrate, I know what people are thinking all over the world. Presidents, diplomats, scientists. I can help them understand each other.
What the hell does that even mean?
That's kind of lame. And again, all I can think of is
I can help them understand each other.
If a lot of people love each other, the world would be a better place to live.
bit of an anticlimax after thousands of years of conflict, but also he's become mortal again. He can have children and grow old and die. And I'm imagining what it would have been like if the Kurgan had won the prize instead, and being super pissed that this is what he gets out of it. And that's Highlander. It's an interesting watch. There's some good, some bad, but what strikes me most of all is the potential for what could have been, or what it could one day become if it gets a remake. There were sequels and a TV show, but the movies retconned a lot of what happens in the first movie, so I just skipped them. It's a movie that, as I watch it, I can't help thinking how scenes could have been made better, characters and motivations changed around to make the story simpler and more emotionally impactful, especially with the female lead, a more nuanced and subtle performance from the villain, and maybe, honestly, generally, just a better actor for our hero. A better explanation of what the Quickening is, a more tempting prize to kill for, lose the two cop characters who actually, I'm not joking, disappear in the middle of their subplot, never to return. The writer really dropped the ball on that one.
What does incompetent mean?
Make the sword fights more exciting, more dangerous, more epic. And then there's the elements that absolutely work. Sean Connery, everything Sean Connery says and does, which is all the more impressive when you consider that he filmed all his scenes in less than a week. What a fucking pro. R.I.P. Mr. Bond, you'll be missed. The landscapes and cinematography and the Scotland scenes is pretty excellent. The score by Michael Kamen does a lot of the heavy lifting and strikes the perfect tone for the themes being explored, more so than the actual screenplay itself does. I'm guessing it's an underrated score because I think it's pretty great, but I haven't heard many people talking about it very much. The soundtrack by Queen is a little out of place at times, but Who Wants to Live Forever is not, and it's fantastic.
I like your place, Brenda.
The scene transitions between the present and the past are pretty cool, and they show some extra effort on the part of the director. I like the moments set in different time periods other than Scotland and the present, especially this part.
Whatever you say, Jack. You're the master race.
Maybe this is a controversial decision, but I genuinely think that if they hired an interesting and established director and the right cast, kept the good parts, changed the bad, and definitely leave out this creepy shit, there could be a legitimately good remake of Highlander, because unlike Terminator or RoboCop or The Predator, it's not really popular enough to be a household name or considered by most to be a stone-cold classic of the era, even though I know a lot of people do like it. And you know what? Not for nothing, but maybe put the editor on some kind of watch list or something. You know, just saying. Fucking dirty bastard. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, comment down below, let me know what you thought of the video, what you thought of Highlander, and leave a recommendation for a movie that you'd like to see me review. Sorry I couldn't appear in person this time, but I've been in lockdown for a few weeks and my hair and beard have grown a little out of control. Yeah! So hopefully things will get back to normal soon, and I will see you guys next time.
With heart, faith, steel. In the end, there can be only one. You have the manners of a goat, and you smell like a dung heap.